his action and the place of his action are linked together here by a verbal play on words. Jehoshaphat means Yahweh will judge. Saphat is the word for judgment in Hebrew, and it occurs twice here. It occurs in verse 2 in the word Jehoshaphat, which means a valley, Yahweh judges. Yahweh judges. It's the valley of Yahweh's judgment. And then in the third line of verse 2, I will judge them there on behalf of my people and my inheritance, Israel. So God's intention to regather and bless his covenant people is on display, and then God's intention to gather and curse or judge the nations is also on display. And these two things go hand in hand. This is because the nature of God is a God of justice. No sin goes unpunished. Nothing gets swept under the rug with God. Because God is holy, because God is a God of perfect justice, of perfect decision, there is no motive, no sin, no violation of his perfect law that will ever go unnoticed by God. And a day will come, a day of final and terrible judgment, where all nations will be gathered and God will deal with them appropriately. This is true on a national level, and it's true on an individual level, because nations are nothing more than a composition of individuals. And so there's no way to get out from under this judgment. God shows how universal it is by saying all nations, verse 2. He also shows us how personal this is when he says, I will judge them there on behalf of my people and my inheritance, Israel. So the place of judgment, the valley of Jehoshaphat, I'm not really sure exactly what that might be. When other prophets talk about this day, they talk about it being close to, about this valley, they talk about it being close to Jerusalem. And we don't know exactly what valley is in mind here. If it's a valley that currently exists, I think it's an actual physical valley, though the geography unknown. Zephaniah 14:4, which has a lot of the same material in it, talks about God splitting the Mount of Olives to make a valley. So perhaps that's the valley that God has in mind for this place of final war and judgment against the nations. Or Isaiah 22, verse 1, calls it a valley of vision, where everything will be seen perfectly clearly. Or perhaps it's the valley in Ezekiel 38, verse 22, where Gog is dealt with definitively by God. But I don't think the location of the valley is our primary concern. I think the purpose of the valley is what's on display here, and the geography is subordinate to that. The purpose of this valley is that God will judge the nations who have raged against him and against his covenant people. That's why he makes it so personal. My people, verse 2, my inheritance, Israel. Verse 2, my land that they divided. Verse 3, for my people,